Since its founding in 2008, Airbnb has gone from a scrappy upstart listing vacation rentals to an international powerhouse shaking up the travel industry. People use the Airbnb to list online more than 500 million accommodations in nearly 200 countries, from rooms in homes to private castles. As the San Francisco-based company grows, it's facing criticism from the hotel industry, saying Airbnb is avoiding taxes. Earlier today, Scott Shafer sat down with co-founder and CEO Brian Chesky.
Brian Chesky, welcome.
Thank you.
So there was a report out this week from Boston University School of Management shows that Airbnb listings are taking a bit of a bite out of hotels in places where they're advertised. And I'm wondering, does Airbnb see itself as competing with hotels the same way that, say, Amazon did with independent bookstores?
I don't think so. I think that Airbnb is really an experience-driven company, and we are a little bit of a slice of adventure. We really allow you to feel like you live like a local. Imagine you could feel like you live in that city. And hotels, most hotels, you typically stay for 3 nights. Average stay at Airbnb is closer to a week. We have a lot more international travel, and I read that same report, and frankly, I don't think it has a lot of cannibalizing effects. I like to think that we start to compete with people just staying home, frankly, because a lot of people are traveling for the very first time. So what we're creating is a lot of incremental travel.
There is, of course, a big trust factor
totally.
In the sharing economy generally, but you're inviting people into your home, you're going into people's homes. How do you negotiate all that, and how has that changed in terms of the way Airbnb deals with that?
Well, I think that trust is the currency that allows this economy to be able to flourish. And so when we created Airbnb, there were a couple core tenets. First, profiles. Every single person had to have a profile. And so everyone at Airbnb has a profile, and you can learn about them. The second is you have reviews. Reviews are bidirectional, so when I stay with you, I leave you a review. You leave me a review. Over time, these reviews are a way of accumulating trust. And the third is it's a transaction. So these reviews are transactional. So they can only be done through a secure payment system. So you can't just leave an unsolicited review.
Yeah. Of course, you have hundreds of thousands of people using Airbnb. Yep. And this is just one anecdote we got. We asked our listeners and our viewers to send us their stories. And regarding reviews, one person said, I had a pretty good experience. I left a review of the host that was mostly favorable, but not entirely favorable. And then the host started harassing her because she didn't like the review. She was afraid it would be bad for business.
Right.
So how do you deal with that interaction afterwards between the host and the guest?
Well, incredibly important is our ability to be a mediator. So we have a 24/7 customer support line where we're in 20 or so languages around the world. And so here in San Francisco, the really great thing is that there's recourse for both sides. So if either side has an issue, we're there to step in, and we'll do whatever we can to make things right for both parties.
Like
we really try to see
things. Almost.
Well, it's very rare that it happens, but if something were to happen, we're there.
There have been some places, New York in particular, where there's been a lot of tension between the hotel industry and Airbnb. The Attorney General of New York got involved, and there was talk about collecting hotel taxes, occupancy taxes. Your position changed on that. Initially, you were either quiet about it, but then recently, in October, I think, you said this is the correct way to go. Tell me where you stand now, the company, and how you're implementing that.
Well, our position never changed. It was just a matter of us making a bigger commitment. So we've always asked our users, our hosts, to be able to comply with local laws and regulations. And we weren't, we didn't have to collect and remit or kind of streamline that process of local taxes in New York. But we decided after spending a lot of time in New York that we wanted to go further than what the law compelled us to do. And so we wanted to really aid in the host, being able to streamline this process. And I think the core problem here is there are laws for people, there are laws for businesses. When they look at the sharing economy, when you look at Airbnb, you ask what bucket do they fit into? And sometimes they don't fit in either bucket. There's a third bucket, people as businesses. So they're not necessarily a business like Airbnb, but they're not a person that's not doing business.
So will Airbnb actually collect the tax the way a hotel does, or you're going to leave it up to the hosts?
I think that we haven't even gone down that road yet of that level of detail. The most important thing is our commitment. Our commitment is being great partners with cities. We want them to want us in cities, and we want to enrich them. So, strengthen them.
You're in 192 countries, I think.
190, actually. Yeah.
And there's many different ways of being a host, and
Right.
it varies depending on the culture and the place. So how do you establish an experience for the user that is not standard necessarily, but predictable maybe?
There have to be predictable standards and expectations. We don't want it to be a one-size-fits-all experience. We want to celebrate the uniqueness for which there's only one of this experience in the entire world. Every person's different and unique, but we have 9 hospitality standards. We actually hired the former head of Joie de Vivre Hotel Group, which you may know here in San Francisco, Chip Conley, who created the Phoenix Hotel and Hotel Vital. And we brought him in, and he's our hospitality visionary. And there are 9 hospitality standards: communication, cleanliness, check-in, and you can provide a unique experience, but there's a minimum threshold that everyone has to uphold.
You and I have something in common. We were both born in remote towns in New York State. You're from Niskayuna.
Niskayuna.
And I'm from Tonawanda.
Yes. Wow.
I checked on Airbnb. There's actually 11 listings in Niskayuna.
The funny thing is, I like to tell people, where'd you grow up? And they tell us, maybe suggest an obscure hometown. And I say, I bet we'll have a listing Airbnb. I don't think I've been wrong yet. So that suggests we're in 34,000 different cities around the world.
Yeah, and just real quick, what does it look like? What does the future look like?
I think this future looks like us expanding this idea of Airbnb into even more places, because we have this vision that you can be home anywhere around the world.
All right, Brian Chesky, Airbnb, thanks so much.
Thank you so much.